So my name is Valia. I run a leadership development company called The Paradox of Leadership. What that looks like in practice is basically, on a human level, helping people get out of their own way. What we actually do is executive coaching, taking top teams away to do offsites, retreats, strategy meetings, manager training programs for companies, because a lot of people get promoted, as we all know, because they happen to be good at a job, then they put in a manager position and they're kind of lousy at being a manager, and then people leave the company. So we help solve that problem very specifically. But my favorite thing to do is speak and write and teach, specifically around firsts, which is why I was so excited for the invitation tonight. Firsts in their family to go to college, firsts to start a company, firsts to be a leader, firsts to move across country. Just what happens in my mind to firsts is something very interesting. It's like the pendulum of like, I'm so afraid, what am I doing? To I'm so brave, I want freedom, I'm gonna do my thing. And like that pendulum is sort of this never-ending arc of a firsts experience. So that's a little bit of my world. What did your year look like? What was the shape of it? What touched you this year? What was horrific this year? What was meaningful? And what do you want to carry forward kind of intention-wise into 2020? And quite frankly, what do you want to leave behind that you're like, I did this was interesting, but I'm entering a new phase of how I want to be in the world. So what I did for my share this evening is distill down kind of my 3 lessons for 2019 and what I would like to look forward into for 2020. And I kind of put them in 3 buckets, so I'll share a little bit about me and what I think is the nugget of leadership wisdom in that as an offering, and then open it up to hear all of your asks, reflections, and what 2020 might have in store for you. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay. So my first lesson was around ambition. Ambition is a word I know, I'm sure many of us know, near and dear to our hearts. I actually realized this year that I don't know who I am outside of my ambition. And that kind of scared the crap out of me. Because ambition, I think, has a big plus in terms of drive and go and careers and degrees and changes and just exponential growth. But I felt like this year, for the first time, I started hitting the more for the sake of more rather than more for intention. And it was a bit of a spiral place. It was like, well, of course I can do more. And then this year will be better than that year in terms of revenue or in terms of coaches on our team or in terms of number of clients or in terms of whatever the more is. But it felt like it started to get to be a superficial more. I was like, what is this ambition in service to, actually? So I guess my offer tonight for you, if you think about if ambition resonates, or if, like, as one of my lessons and nuggets of 2019, looking at 2020, what if we were to allow it to kind of move and evolve as the seasons of our life move and evolve? I mean, I teach values-based leadership sessions all day long to companies, and my number one pitch about values is they better change according to your life, right? Because if you just had a health scare versus you just got married versus you're about to retire, they better look different. How you make decisions, how you see the world, versus them being steadfast your entire life. So I think what I've been pondering on as I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you all tonight is, what if ambition also had the ability to have cadence and growth and flow to reflect the seasonality of our lives and the priorities in a given moment, not sort of a letting go and a loss or a gain. So that was kind of my first nugget, and I actually brought you, I'm a real quote person, so one of my favorite quotes that I thought about for ambition was from Annie Lamott. I don't know if you've read her work, she's incredible. And she says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And I was like, that would be a really refreshing way to think about ambition. Like what we're doing tonight, slowing down so we can speed up tomorrow morning. So to me, it was really kind of core to the values that you both share in bringing this group of women together. My second nugget for 2019 was about making meaning. I'm like a real junkie for making meaning. Maybe it's because as sort of founders and leaders in our respective worlds, we just move at such a fast clip that it's like, when do you slow down enough to make meaning consciously? And so the way I think about, when I was looking at the year, and I'm like, God, the shape of a year only happens by the things that are out of the ordinary, right? It's the trip that you took. It's the really bad argument that you had. It's the thing you did with your team where you shut the office down early and did something special. It's the time that your friend visited. Like, you don't look at a year and say, oh yeah, remember that Tuesday when I was in traffic? And then that next Tuesday when I was in traffic? Like, you look at the shape of a year based on the things that were outliers. And so I guess my invitation to all of us is, how do we make that a more conscious process? How do we make meaning like we're doing tonight, where you can remember, like, oh, that dinner was fabulous. That was a highlight of December. And then that was a highlight of November. And that was a highlight of October. So that we become more the authors of the shape of our year and what we want to reflect back on. For me, meaning this year happened a lot in travel. I went to Peru this year, much earlier in the year. Went to Tahiti. I went to Greece to visit family. When I was in Greece, I had a work trip in Slovenia, of all places. So I got to see a lot. Last year, my move from New York to California was my meaning making, and so I didn't travel at all except for work. This year was like, let me go back and see the world. But it doesn't have to be that grandiose. I think my invitation is more, what if we just slow down enough in the day-to-day, average Tuesday, average Thursday, to just make a little bit of conscious meaning. And then number 3, let me give you my quote for meaning. Rumi, I'm a big Rumi groupie. Respond to every call that excites your spirit. And I thought, wow, if we made decisions that way and made conscious choices by just responding versus reacting, what a more conscious state we'd be in. So that was meaning. And then finally, this last one, I wrote control, but then I crossed control out because I'm like, let me do something a little more uplifting. And I put witnessing. This story is a little more complex. By trade, by nature, as a human being, I like to fix and help and support and coach and train and teach. It's just the DNA, and I take a lot of pride in it. I'm like, okay, I see a problem in a human being, I can fix it and offer and help and support, and I actually, my ego-based self is like, that's a higher order of work. I feel very proud of that. Until it kind of laser beams into your own relationship. So I've been married for 10 years, and in my mind, I've saved my husband. We both grew up from Greek immigrant parents. He was destined to run the family diner and be a prisoner to the family diner on the Upper East Side of Manhattan for the rest of his life. And we started dating, and right away it was kind of like an ultimatum. Valia was like, so it's me or the diner situation? And then it was coaching him out of the diner once we decided that it's going to be me, and coaching and helping and game plan and go get your master's in hospitality, open your travel agency that you've... It's been 10 years of something I'm very proud of as my number one client. Until this year. So this year, my husband decided to take a path of sobriety. I think he came to terms with the fact that he grew up with an alcoholic father. Meanwhile, Greek immigrants don't even know that term. It's just wine is part of revelry. So I think he finally saw the real shadow side of painful moments in his childhood. The sobriety led to real change in lifestyle. Things I had been pushing and doing and coaching, go do cardio, lose some weight, feel good about yourself. It led to all of that. The problem was it led to all of that through other people. Through AA, through community, through his trainer. He's now the youngest and healthiest he's ever looked. He lost 70 pounds this year. Wow. Completely kind of sober, inspired, alive. And I got everything I asked for, but what I witnessed was the deepest loneliness I've ever experienced in my life. That this person did all this, and I'm like, I coached and helped and wait. And I felt like I was just this outlier, just looking at my life. And I almost cracked this summer. It was kind of I can't do this loneliness thing, or I try something different. And the cracking point brought me to this strange surrender, where I was I give up. I am just going to listen to you and just kind of hold space, because I can't help feel disappointed. I can't play that anymore. My job was starting to suffer, my health, I couldn't. And something really interesting happened. I just listened to him. I just asked questions. I kind of did my purest coaching thing rather than my consulting coaching thing where I was telling him what to do. And then it changed. Like all of a sudden there was more acknowledgement, there was a slowing down, there was a coming together. And so I put the word witnessing because in my mind, when you are sort of a coach, fixer, helper, leader, founder, we do everything, right? We can be the janitor and the CEO and the leader and the marketing person and the business development person. And it's just too much. And at some point, I think I just realized, what if one were to just witness another human being without needing to solve or fix or change? And I don't know, I don't have the answer yet. I just have the beginning of, I think there's a whole nother world of redirecting that energy back to me, to my purpose, to what matters and is meaningful, rather than redirecting it outward necessarily in terms of, I need to be loved, so let me fix. So that felt like a really interesting part of 2019 that, again, I haven't quite figured out, but my intention is to spend more time witnessing, less time fixing in 2020. And the quote that I grabbed for us was from Najwa Zebian. And she says, "These mountains that you are carrying, you were only supposed to climb." And I was like, damn, that's exactly it. Sometimes I feel like I ended up carrying mountains that really were just part of a journey, part of a trek, part of an experience, not something that needed to be carried. So I guess I leave you with kind of these three themes: ambition, meaning, witnessing. How can you, in your life of leadership, in your life of reflection, put some of that oxygen back to yourself? Figure out, what does ambition look like? And can it be something that moves with you rather than is stagnant and still and is just the hamster wheel? More, bigger, better. What if it just bent more rather than broke? And for meaning, just an invitation that it just, like, life is going by quickly. Like 2020, holy cow, right? Like, how do we just slow down enough for nights like this? How do we slow down enough to be with another human being without have to do anything but share space, create safe space, and just want good in the world? I think it's nights like this that remind me that, like, we can be just light in the world that desperately needs it. And then finally, the witnessing. Who in your life or who in your businesses might you just, rather than doing and solving and fixing and coaching, whatever you do, what if you were to just kind of zoom back out in your rightful leadership place and see what that looks like too, as an invitation? So thank you. I will end with kind of my favorite quote that I use in every one of my presentations, which is, to make visible what without you might never have been seen. And so when I thought about what does this group of women do, it's like we are all here for a purpose with a fingerprint, and just an invitation. Let 2020 be a year that you just make visible. Just bring out to the world what is yours. Because if not, right, like poof, it was an idea and it just never came to be. But through you, it does. And I've already met so many lovely women, many of whom are East Coast transplants. I'm like, oh my God, it's like a mecca. It's like a safe, beautiful place. But, you know, all joking aside, just what if we were to be that for each other, just to hold space for making visible what is truly yours in the world? So thank you for listening.